We have a completely just staggering set of events colliding today. Like, I am staring at the rundown right now, and it honestly feels like the simulation is actively glitching.
Oh, that's a total mess.
Right. On one hand, you have country singer Kacey Musgraves cruising at 50,000 feet, literally filming glowing triangular unidentified aircraft out her window, which we will get to. But then, on the other hand, we have sitting United States politicians hiding in airport freight elevators and scurrying through the back alleys of Disney World just to escape TMZ paparazzi.
It is a complete dumpster fire of a news cycle.
It really is. The contrasts are just jarring, but you have to stick around until the end of the episode to hear the crazy details of what commercial airline pilots are seeing every single night up there, because the footage is wild.
It's unparalleled chaos today. We are watching the complete breakdown of normal societal operations across, like, 5 different sectors simultaneously.
We are Mike and Abby, and welcome to Daily World Podcasts. Forget everything you know about boring news. We are taking the wildest, most impactful stories that hit the planet today and breaking them down so you don't have to.
Whether you are on a long drive, crushing a workout, or just feeling a little bored, we are here to keep you updated with the world and make your next hour incredibly interesting.
That being said, we are jumping straight into the absolute chaos unfolding in the influencer economy, because the meltdown happening right now is just completely unprecedented.
Oh yeah, the bloodbath.
We are 48 hours out from the 2026 Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival, which is, the undeniable economic engine for the creator class.
It's their fiscal fourth quarter. I mean, it is the only week of the year that actually matters for these management agencies.
Exactly. And it is just a massacre of cancellations right now. You have dozens of highly visible content creators getting their all expenses paid luxury brand trips axed via text message. Not a phone call from a PR rep, a text message. 2 days before they are supposed to be out in the California desert.
Which is brutally unprofessional. And we aren't talking about, like, micro-influencers who just started a page in their bedroom. Look at the roster getting dumped.
Right.
You have Glo Cortez and Yasmin Marciali, both of whom pull over 280,000 followers on their platforms. They were completely ghosted at the finish line. Then you have Tiara Nelson, who commands an audience of 4.7 million.
It's insane.
4.7 million people.
And she just gets a push notification that her entire hospitality package was taken away. I mean, the logistical nightmare here is what people outside the industry don't grasp.
Yeah, they don't just show up.
Right. These creators have sunk thousands of dollars of their own money into preparation based on legally binding signed contracts. We are talking professional hairstyling, custom wardrobe fittings, advanced travel documentation, paying their own assistants.
Oh, the sheer horror of it all. My heart truly breaks for the influencers who had to pay for their own hair extensions this morning.
Come on.
I mean it, a dark day for the American economy.
Truly.
How will the Republic survive this tragedy?
Okay, I know you are deeply cynical about the influencer space, and yes, the optics of crying over a free luxury vacation are terrible, but from a purely macroeconomic standpoint, this is a severe structural shock.
I guess.
The excuses these PR agencies are feeding them are insulting. They are sending texts blaming international payment delays and unforeseen shipping issues for avoiding hospitality contracts 2 days out.
Wait, unforeseen shipping issues? How does that even work mechanically?
I have no idea.
What, they suddenly couldn't physically ship the VIP wristbands via FedEx? That is such a transparent lie. What we're actually looking at is a blaring recession indicator for the digital advertising sector.
So you think this is entirely budget-driven?
100%. I mean, brands are looking at their quarterly projections. They're looking at the actual tangible return on investment of paying some 22-year-old $30,000 to hold a proprietary seltzer can in the desert. And the executives are just pulling the plug.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The era of zero interest rate marketing budgets is dead. It is a financial retraction masquerading as a logistical error.
And the contract disputes leaking out are draconian. There is a creator named Ivy Elix who posted her emails showing she got dropped from her trip entirely because she questioned a bizarre exclusivity clause.
I think was that.
The brand tried to mandate that she was forbidden from attending any other parties, even private ones, during the entire 3-day weekend.
Because they want to own her likeness entirely without paying the premium for a full buyout. It's ridiculous. The control these agencies are trying to exert while simultaneously slashing budgets is just a train wreck.
Absolutely.
Now, if you look at the comment sections online, the general public is just tearing these influencers apart. They are calling the public begging for replacement tickets embarrassing and out of touch. But structurally, the influencer economy as we knew it is collapsing.
The entitlement there is wild, but it completely pales in comparison to the absolute mess we're about to get into regarding where elected officials are hiding right now.
Oh man, this story.
Because if you thought the influencers were having a bad day navigating public relations, the United States Congress is currently experiencing a masterclass in public humiliation.
It is an optics nightmare on an historic scale. To set the stage, we are currently in the middle of a partial government shutdown heavily impacting the Department of Homeland Security.
Right.
So you have essential federal workers, TSA agents, Border Patrol personnel, federal air marshals, all mandated to report to work right now with zero pay.
They are essentially working for IOUs.
Right. And what did Congress do while federal workers are scrambling to cover rent?
They left.
They went on their scheduled spring recess, they packed their bags, left Washington, and let the funding impasse just burn in the background.
Which historically is the standard playbook. You know, they issue a strongly worded press release blaming the opposing party, and then they fly out to their vacation homes. The media usually just reports on the empty Capitol building. But this time, TMZ decided to aggressively change the rules of engagement.
And honestly, watching a tabloid entertainment outlet execute a more effective accountability journalism campaign than the entire Washington press corps is both hilarious and deeply depressing.
It really is. TMZ deployed their Los Angeles-style paparazzi like the guys who usually hide in the bushes outside nightclubs to photograph pop stars, and specifically sent them to hunt down lawmakers on vacation.
The footage they have published over the last 24 hours is viral gold.
It is. They caught Senator Lindsey Graham just wandering around Disney World. They ambushed Representative Robert Garcia hanging out in Las Vegas.
Harvey Levin, the executive producer of TMZ, went on a national broadcast and explicitly stated this paparazzi-style coverage is intentional. He said, and I quote, "Both parties have betrayed us."
Wow.
He is actively framing this as a populist crusade. They now have a full-time producer and photographer permanently circulating in the Capitol. It is weaponized pop culture applied to legislative failure.
And the politicians have zero idea how to handle it. I mean, a traditional reporter asks a polite question at a scheduled press conference. These TMZ guys are aggressive, they use blinding camera flashes, and they walk backward in front of you while shouting questions about unpaid TSA agents while you are just trying to buy a churro.
They are totally rattled. The reports leaking out of these congressional camps say lawmakers are so terrified of this TMZ campaign that they are altering their travel logistics.
Yeah, they are hiding.
They're using kitchen exits at hotels. They are riding in airport freight elevators to hide from the cameras. Think about the visual of that.
Yeah.
An elected official riding next to a pallet of industrial toilet paper just to avoid answering why border agents aren't getting paychecks.
It is incredible. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube right now, drop a comment if you think you'd handle being ambushed by TMZ at Disney World better than a sitting U.S. senator. Because the defense statements they are putting out are just making it worse.
So much worse.
Graham's camp claimed he was doing informal administration meetings near Orlando. Garcia blamed the Speaker of the House for sending everyone home.
Nobody cares about the parliamentary excuses when the optics are a split screen of a TSA agent staring at an empty bank account and a senator riding the teacups.
The White House is reportedly furious about the visuals, too. They are urging congressional leadership to cancel the recess entirely, force everyone back to Washington, and just finalize a deal to stop the bleeding.
We'll see if Congress actually comes back to work.
Yeah.
But speaking of shockwaves hitting Washington, the West Wing is in full panic mode today after what just happened in the Grand Foyer.
Okay, before we even touch this, we need to issue a very clear disclaimer to the audience. We are about to cover highly sensitive domestic political developments. We maintain strict impartiality on this show.
Absolutely.
We are not taking sides, we are not endorsing any political viewpoints, and we are not spinning the narrative. We are strictly relaying the verified, documented facts from the source material regarding a major historical event that just happened.
Exactly, just the structural facts. Yesterday, April 9th, First Lady Melania Trump walked into the Grand Foyer of the White House and delivered a completely surprise 5-minute public address regarding the Jeffrey Epstein case.
The broader context here is the recent release of millions of pages of documents under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which has entirely consumed the news cycle. The First Lady stepped out of the private residence to explicitly and publicly deny having any personal relationship or friendship with Jeffrey Epstein.
It was an extraordinary break from protocol. She systematically addressed the core allegations floating around the transparency dump.
Right.
There was a specific, highly scrutinized email from 2002 addressed to Ghislaine Maxwell. Melania Trump dismissed it directly on camera, characterizing the message as casual correspondence and a trivial note.
She also established a very specific timeline. She explicitly denied that Epstein was the person who introduced her to Donald Trump. She stated they met independently in 1998, and her first actual encounter with Epstein wasn't until a broader social event in the year 2000.
She laid down very firm, legalistic markers.
Yeah, she said she was never a participant in his criminal activities, she never visited his private island, and she never set foot on his private plane.
But the real earthquake-like, the detail that reportedly had the West Wing communications office sprinting down the hallways in a panic, was how she ended that 5-minute address.
Oh, man.
She went completely rogue. She looked into the cameras and called on Congress to hold immediate public hearings specifically dedicated to Epstein's survivors, demanding that those survivors testify under oath.
Wait, mechanically, why does that cause such a panic in the communications office?
Because of the immense internal political friction it generates. Just weeks prior to this, the president had publicly characterized the resurgence of the Epstein story as a Democrat hoax designed to distract from the economy. The administration's entire media strategy was focused on burying the files and pivoting away.
And then the First Lady walks out and not only revives the story on a global broadcast, but she essentially dares the United States Congress to launch a full-scale televised investigation into it.
Precisely. And the House Oversight Committee Democrats saw the opening and immediately endorsed her proposal. They jumped right on it. So you now have this staggering internal contradiction at the highest level of government. The First Lady is demanding survivor-centric public hearings on the exact topic the West Wing desperately wanted to neutralize.
Again, looking strictly at the mechanics of the event, you have a First Lady stepping completely out of the traditional ceremonial lane, bypassing her own communications staff, and fundamentally altering the trajectory of a congressional oversight committee. The political fallout of that specific maneuver is going to dominate the Sunday shows this weekend.
It will consume the news cycle entirely. But right now we need to shift gears to an actual life-or-death situation unfolding at a hotel in Pakistan.
And again, applying our strict impartiality rule here, we are discussing an incredibly volatile, ongoing global conflict in the Middle East. We are strictly reporting the diplomatic and military facts on the ground, as documented in the April 10th Global Strategic Synthesis Report. We're not taking geopolitical sides, simply explaining the board as it stands today.
The contrast in this story is what makes it so hard to process. You have extreme, high-level diplomatic negotiations happening in absolute, pristine isolation, while the actual theater of war is experiencing unprecedented, devastating violence.
Yeah.
The diplomatic front is centered in Islamabad, Pakistan, at the Serena Hotel. The United States and Iran are attempting to negotiate an off-ramp to their month-long direct military engagement.
But they refuse to actually look at each other. They are utilizing a diplomatic protocol called a proximity format. Vice President J.D. Vance landed at the Nurkan Air Base to lead the American delegation. He brought along Chief Negotiator Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. So the U.S. has sent their heaviest hitters.
But the Iranian delegation and the American team are occupying completely separate wings of the Serena Hotel. They're not sitting at a large mahogany table together. They're not in the same room.
That's so wild.
Pakistani officials acting as host mediators are physically running back and forth down the hallways, carrying folders to relay positions, demands, and counterproposals.
Wait, back up. How does that actually work mechanically? Why fly all the way to Pakistan just to pass notes through a middleman? Couldn't they do that over a secure server?
Well, it is about physical proximity, demonstrating a willingness to engage, without the political optics of shaking hands with a combatant. But the security apparatus required to facilitate this is mind-boggling. The Pakistani government has designated the entire hotel a green zone.
Oh, wow.
The Pakistan Rangers and elite counterterrorism police units have completely locked down the surrounding grid.
And the isolation between the two delegations is so extreme that they actually intervened in the hotel's infrastructure. Like, they divided the Serena Hotel's kitchen staff into two completely separate, segregated teams just to ensure there is zero cross-contamination of personnel between the American wing and the Iranian wing.
While they are passing diplomatic notes through a segregated kitchen, the reality on the ground in Lebanon is apocalyptic. Within a single 24-hour window, Israel launched its most intensive aerial campaign against Hezbollah positions yet. They struck over 100 targets across Beirut and southern Lebanon.
The casualty figures coming out of the Lebanese health ministry are grim. They confirmed at least 303 people killed and 1,150 injured in just one day.
The World Health Organization released a bulletin stating the bombardment was so intense they had to initiate emergency, under-fire evacuations of two major referral hospitals in the Jinnah area of Beirut. Moving ICU patients while under aerial bombardment is a logistical nightmare.
And the cognitive dissonance here is incredible because Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stood at a podium that same Thursday and announced that Israel is prepared to open direct negotiations with the Lebanese government. He is offering direct negotiations for a long-term peace agreement while simultaneously authorizing the heaviest bombardment of the entire conflict.
Right, and Hezbollah responded immediately by firing massive rocket barrages deep into northern Israel, triggering warning sirens all day. The cumulative death toll in Lebanon since the escalation on March 2nd has now hit 1,888. And the U.S. administration is clearly fractured on how to manage this two-front reality.
Reports indicate President Trump urged Netanyahu to low-key it on the Lebanon front, specifically so the Israeli operations wouldn't blow up the fragile proximity talks happening in Pakistan. But the complete opposite happened. The strikes escalated.
And honestly, we have to ask how a ceasefire can even be realistically discussed when you look at the tactical maneuvers Iran is making in the maritime corridor.
Right, the shipping lanes?
They're actively choking off the Strait of Hormuz. Senior Iranian military sources confirmed via the Tandes news agency that they are imposing a hard physical limit of just 15 vessels per day allowed through the strait. 15.
Just to give people context, before this war kicked off, you would see 80 to 100 massive cargo ships and oil tankers moving through that waterway daily. It is the jugular vein of global energy.
It is a massive, deliberate bottleneck. And to enforce it, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps published technical charts proudly showing they deployed advanced sea mines throughout the waterway during the initial combat phase.
Wait, how does a modern sea mine actually deter a ship that size? Are they just floating on the surface like in the old movies?
No, these aren't the spiky black spheres from World War II. Modern acoustic and magnetic mines sit on the seafloor or are tethered just below the surface. They listen for the specific acoustic signature of a commercial propeller, or they detect the magnetic anomaly of a massive steel hull passing overhead, and they detonate upward, breaking the keel of the ship.
So even if you are one of the 15 ships that Iran officially allows through, you are navigating a literal active minefield.
Exactly.
On top of that, Iran is proposing outrageous transit tolls for international waters, a demand the White House vehemently rejected.
The entire surveillance umbrella over the region is also collapsing. The U.S. Navy just reported the disappearance of a highly advanced Triton surveillance drone over the Persian Gulf. It went down following an emergency descent on Friday morning.
And they haven't found it.
They haven't recovered it. So the American Overwatch is failing, the shipping lane is heavily mined, and the daily transit limit is 15 ships.
That 15-vessel limit isn't just a military tactic. It is actively blowing up the American economy, which brings us to the terrifying new numbers that just dropped.
This is exactly where global geopolitics reaches directly into the listener's wallet. The Bureau of Labor Statistics released the Consumer Price Index data for March, and the numbers are brutal.
Inflation just accelerated to 3.3%, which is the highest level we have seen in 2 years. It reverses almost all the progress the Federal Reserve thought they made. And the catalyst is entirely driven by the energy sector, which surged 10.9% in a single month.
10.9% in 1 month. I want to emphasize that. That is the largest monthly spike in energy costs since September 2005, right after Hurricane Katrina wrecked the Gulf Coast refineries.
Wow.
And if you drill down into that specific sector, gasoline prices skyrocketed by 21.2% in March alone.
That one metric, the cost of filling up your car, accounts for nearly 3/4 of the entire inflation increase across the entire American economy.
Because it is a direct mathematical result of the Middle East conflict and that bottleneck in the Strait of Hormuz. When Iran mines the strait, global shipping companies face a maritime backlog extending deep into the Arabian Sea. You have oil tankers carrying millions of barrels of crude waiting over 12 days just for a transit window.
How does a 12-day delay translate to a 21% spike at my local gas station, though? Doesn't the U.S. produce its own oil?
We do, but crude oil is priced on a global commodity market. When tankers sit idle for 12 days, they're burning fuel just to keep the ship powered.
Yeah.
But more importantly, the maritime insurance premiums for sailing a multi-million-dollar tanker through an active minefield have multiplied by 10.
Oh, of course, the insurance.
The shipping companies pass that insurance premium onto the refineries pass it to the distributors, and the distributors hike the price on the board at your corner station.
It is a localized economic nightmare caused by a geopolitical choke point. And of course, the airline industry is passing their pain on to the consumer as well. Airline fares are up almost 15% annually.
Specifically because commercial carriers are having to reroute their entire flight paths. You cannot fly a civilian 777 over the Iran war zone or the Persian Gulf right now. So they are taking massive detours over Saudi Arabia or flying further north. The extra fuel burn on those longer routes is astronomical, and they are passing that cost directly to the ticket buyer.
The Bureau of Labor Statistics data did have some strained, almost comical silver linings, though.
If you can call them that.
Right. While energy is bankrupting people, core inflation, which excludes volatile food and energy sectors, remained relatively stable at 2.6%. And bizarrely, egg prices continued to plummet, dropping 44.7% over the last year as the agricultural supply chains finally recovered from that massive avian flu outbreak.
Oh, fantastic. I can't afford to put gas in my car to drive to work, but at least my morning omelets are half price. What a relief. I feel so much better about the economy now.
Seriously, though, the pain at the pump is a universal experience right now. Pause for a second and ask yourself, how much has your gas bill gone up this month? Let us know in the YouTube comments because this 21% jump is brutal and we really want to know how it's hitting different regions.
While everyday people are getting crushed at the pump, Elon Musk just casually dropped $25 billion in Texas, and it is going to alter the tech landscape forever.
The scale of this investment is just difficult to comprehend. Intel just officially confirmed they won the primary foundry contract for Elon Musk's Terafab project. This is a $25 billion joint venture located in Austin, Texas. It combines the engineering and capital resources from Tesla, SpaceX, and xAI, and the stated goal of this facility is to produce 1 terawatt of compute power annually.
Let's pause on that number, 1 terawatt. We aren't just talking about building better laptops or slightly faster graphics cards here. A terawatt of compute is essentially taking the entire electrical output of a medium-sized country and dedicating it entirely to processing artificial intelligence algorithms.
And Intel is going to handle the fabrication and advanced packaging of these completely custom AI chips. Musk stated these chips are specifically designed for 2 things: the central nervous system of Tesla's humanoid robots, and a massive new constellation of SpaceX satellites called AI-Sat Mini.
Which is the part that completely alters the paradigm. Musk stated that 80% of the Terafab's output is going to be dedicated to space-based AI satellites. He's essentially building an orbital compute infrastructure.
Wait, back up. How does orbital compute actually work mechanically? Why would you launch a server into space? Doesn't the data latency make it useless?
The latency is an issue, but they are using advanced laser mesh networks to beam data down to ground stations at the speed of light. The reason you build in space is because of power and cooling.
Oh, the heat.
Right. On Earth, a terawatt data center requires immense amounts of fresh water to cool the servers, and it drains the local electrical grid. In orbit, you have unrestricted access to raw solar power, and the ambient temperature of space provides infinite free cooling for the processors.
So instead of building server farms in Virginia that fight with the local town for electricity, they are launching the servers into low Earth orbit. It's a complete paradigm shift for how the internet's architecture functions.
And it is a monumental lifeline for Intel. This contract completely validates their highly experimental 18A manufacturing node.
What is the 18A node?
It refers to 18 angstroms. It is the physical scale of the transistors they are printing on the silicon. They're so microscopic they are measured in angstroms, not nanometers. It proves their whole foundry-first strategy, where they manufacture chips designed by other companies, is actually viable. Wall Street loved the announcement. Intel shares jumped 11.4% on the news.
They're basically building a domestic, vertically integrated alternative to Taiwan-based semiconductor manufacturing right in the heart of Texas. Geopolitically, it secures American AI supremacy. But, as analysts from Bernstein Research pointed out today, hitting a 1 terawatt compute goal might eventually cost trillions of dollars, not billions.
Is it viable, or is Intel just bleeding cash on a sci-fi pipe dream?
That's the gamble. It's a massive structural shift for American industry. But simultaneously, we are seeing an equally profound structural shift happening inside the federal government, specifically at the Department of Justice.
And again, maintaining our strict impartiality here, we're just looking at the organizational facts of a major federal realignment that took effect this morning. We aren't debating the politics of the move, just explaining the bureaucratic mechanics.
The DOJ is undergoing a fundamental reorganization of its prosecutorial priorities. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche released a memo officially folding the DOJ's criminal tax section into a newly created National Fraud Enforcement Division. And this new division is being chaired directly by Vice President J.D. Vance.
This follows an executive order from the president aimed specifically at eliminating waste in federal benefit programs. The core mission of this new multi-agency task force is exclusively focused on investigating and prosecuting individuals who fraudulently misuse taxpayer dollars through federal and territorial benefit programs.
Right.
Think Medicaid fraud, fraudulent disability claims, things of that nature.
Which sounds standard for government oversight until you look at the mechanical cost of the reorganization. The DOJ has essentially disbanded its standalone tax division to make this happen. Internal reports confirm a staggering 30% reduction in staff within the criminal tax segments.
Legal experts, including highly specialized faculty from the NYU Tax Law Center, are raising major alarms about the structural impact of this.
They are arguing that by diverting IRS investigators away from complex corporate tax evasion and moving them onto general federal benefit fraud tasks, the DOJ is losing irreplaceable institutional knowledge.
What does that mean practically? It means you have highly specialized forensic accountants, people who have spent 20 years learning how to untangle a web of offshore shell companies based in the Cayman Islands, and you are reassigning them to investigate whether someone lied on a food stamp application.
Wow.
One former official stated that it underutilizes these specialists in a way that is highly detrimental to prosecuting high-level financial crimes.
It is a massive pivot in federal philosophy. You are moving federal resources away from auditing billionaires, hedge funds, and multinational corporations, and redirecting that firepower toward policing individual benefit claims. Whether you agree with that policy shift or not, the loss of 30% of the specialized corporate tax staff is a permanent alteration of how the DOJ functions.
Speaking of massive amounts of money moving around, Bill Ackman is currently trying to execute one of the most aggressive takeovers in music history.
This is a wild story of billionaire leverage and international corporate law. Bill Ackman, the founder of Pershing Square Capital Management, just launched a $64 billion bid to completely acquire the Universal Music Group.
UMG is the crown jewel of music catalogs. I mean, they own the rights to everyone from Taylor Swift to the Beatles.
Right. Ackman already owns a 4.7% stake in UMG, but he wants the whole pie. He is offering current shareholders the option to swap their stock for cash or take a stake in a new U.S.-listed entity he plans to create.
But the entire $64 billion deal rests entirely on the shoulders of one man, a 74-year-old French billionaire named Vincent Bolloré.
Wait, why does one guy have veto power over a $64 billion American financial maneuver?
Because Bolloré controls roughly 32% of Universal Music Group's shares through a highly complex ownership structure via a French holding company called Vivendi. It is a legendary display of a tactic called creeping control.
Explain creeping control. How does he legally secure that much power without triggering a mandatory buyout offer?
In French corporate law, holding companies can structure their shares to grant double voting rights if
Ackman literally said on the record during an investor call, without Bolloré, we don't have a transaction. JP Morgan analysts put out a note saying they are incredibly skeptical this bid will actually succeed, purely because Bolloré is historically a buyer, never a seller. He doesn't need Ackman's money. He likes the cultural power of owning the catalog, and Ackman has to somehow convince him to let go of the biggest music asset on the planet.
It is fascinating to watch hyper-aggressive American financial engineering hit a solid brick wall in the form of French old money holding companies. The music industry is so lucrative right now because of streaming royalties and the future of AI licensing. These catalogs aren't just art anymore. They're viewed as sovereign wealth assets.
But while the corporate side of music is booming with $60 billion bids, the cultural side of the industry is mourning a profound loss today. Historians and news agencies confirmed the death of Afrika Bambaataa at the age of 68.
Bambaataa is undeniably a foundational architect of music as we know it today. He was widely known as the godfather of hip-hop. He founded the Universal Zulu Nation in the South Bronx in the 1970s, which was initially designed to offer a positive, creative alternative to the rampant street gang violence of that era.
He popularized the four core pillars of hip-hop culture: DJing, MCing, breakdancing, and graffiti. But his 1982 track Planet Rock is what completely changed the trajectory of global music.
Mechanically, what he did on that track was revolutionary. He took a synthesized melody sample from Kraftwerk, a German electronic minimalism group, and bridged it with New York street culture. He ran that sample through a Roland TR-808 drum machine, which gave it that booming synthetic bass kick.
He essentially invented electro-funk in an afternoon. He laid the rhythmic groundwork for everything from Detroit techno to modern Atlanta trap music. He toured globally in the 80s, spreading the mechanics of hip-hop to Europe and Asia before it was even mainstream in the US.
The cultural impact is genuinely immeasurable. But as the tributes pouring in today have heavily noted, his legacy is deeply complex and shadowed by very serious allegations of sexual misconduct in his later years. The hip-hop community is really grappling with how to hold space for the monumental artistic achievements while confronting the very dark, documented realities of his personal history.
The music industry is reckoning with its past, but right now in Kentucky, a local community is reckoning with an incredibly dark and tragic legal case.
We are shifting to a very somber reality here. There is no room for cynicism on this story. It is a devastating tragedy currently unfolding in the Fayette County court system.
This morning, 21-year-old Laken Snelling, a former stunt team member and cheerleader at the University of Kentucky, appeared before a judge to enter a formal plea. She pled not guilty to charges of first-degree manslaughter, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with physical evidence.
The details of the indictment, which came down from a grand jury on March 10th, are harrowing. Snelling's newborn son was discovered deceased, hidden inside a black trash bag in her apartment closet. The medical examiners conducted their forensic investigation and determined that the infant had been born alive, and the official cause of death was asphyxia.
The prosecution has laid out a deeply disturbing timeline based on digital forensics. They presented evidence, including subpoenaed, deleted phone records, showing that Snelling had actively researched pregnancy topics in the weeks leading up to the birth and had even taken photos on her phone during labor.
Yet the court documents allege that after the delivery cell tower ping show, she went to a local McDonald's and then drove to a health clinic. But she never actually entered the clinic to seek any medical assistance or report the birth to authorities.
Because she hid the evidence, she was also charged with concealing a birth. During the preliminary hearing today, her defense attorneys signaled their legal strategy. They intend to utilize mental health evidence as a core component of her defense.
They will likely argue for a reduced charge, perhaps involuntary manslaughter, or alternative sentencing parameters, given her psychological state at the time of the event. She is currently out on a $100,000 bond and is under strict GPS-monitored house arrest while awaiting trial.
It's a deeply tragic situation that we will keep following as the trial develops. On a completely different note, we need to talk about what is happening in the skies right now, because even the pilots are starting to freak out.
Oh, the Kacey Musgraves footage.
Yeah.
I have to admit, my initial reaction to any celebrity UFO story is pure, unfiltered skepticism. Usually it's a reflection in the window or a Starlink satellite, but the context and corroboration around this specific incident is actually highly unnerving.
Let's lay out the facts. Late Thursday night, country singer Kacey Musgraves is on a commercial flight from Fort Worth, Texas to Nashville. She posts a series of videos to her Instagram stories showing 3 extremely bright, glowing orbs out the passenger window. They are cruising at an estimated altitude of 50,000 feet. They are holding a perfect static triangle formation, and they are completely matching the speed and flight path of her jet.
Now, Musgraves herself joked about her Spacey Kacey reputation, and she apologized for the toaster-quality video, which is typical for these nighttime sky recordings through double-paned acrylic glass. But she was absolutely adamant that these objects were not moving like any conventional craft.
She said they would intermittently disappear completely and then reappear instantly in the same formation. She even claimed to see a 4th orb hovering near her home after she landed in Nashville.
But the crucial part of this story isn't the blurry Instagram video. It's what happened when she asked the flight crew about it. She questioned the pilots after landing, and they flat out told her that they see these exact same glowing orbs every single night.
Every single night. And they said other commercial pilots flying out of major hubs like Dallas and New York are reporting the exact same triangle pattern phenomena on the same routes.
Which fundamentally changes the conversation. If commercial airline pilots, who are highly trained observers of the sky, who know what weather balloons and atmospheric anomalies look like, are confirming that they see unidentified aerial phenomena holding formation alongside civilian aircraft on a nightly basis, we are moving past internet conspiracies and straight into a massive aerial security issue.
Are these undisclosed military drone programs operating illegally in commercial flight lanes?
That's the primary theory. But why would the military test classified drone swarms in highly congested civilian air corridors? It's a huge collision risk.
Yeah.
And the pilots are notoriously reluctant to report this stuff to the FAA because of the professional stigma attached to saying you saw a UFO.
I know half of you listening on a drive right now are screaming at your dashboard about military drones. I get it. But if you're watching on YouTube, comment right now. Do you actually believe these pilots? Because dismissing it as swamp gas or optical illusions doesn't really hold up when seasoned aviators are tracking it night after night.
While we stare at the sky trying to figure out what those orbs are, the ground game at the 2026 Masters Tournament is providing its own bizarre spectacles. The opening round just wrapped up at Augusta National, and the leaderboard is incredibly tight.
Defending champion Rory McIlroy and Sam Burns are currently sharing the top spot. They are both sitting at 5 under par with an opening round score of 67.
The course conditions were perfect today. Dry forecast, firm greens. Even with that newly lengthened 17th hole that the committee added this year, 32 players managed to shoot even par or better. You've got guys like Kurt Kitayama, Patrick Reed, and Jason Day trailing right behind the leaders at 3 under par. Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele are tied for 6th at 2 under.
But the sheer luck on the course today was unbelievable. You have to hear what happened to Schauffele.
Vander Schauffele hit a highly erratic tee shot on the 8th hole. The ball was hooking hard, heading straight for a disaster deep in the pine needles, which would have cost him at least a stroke to punch out. Instead, the ball drops into the gallery, literally bounces squarely off a spectator's shopping bag, and kicks cleanly back onto the fairway into a perfectly playable lie.
You cannot practice that kind of luck.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, major favorites who didn't get favorable bounces are completely imploding. Jon Rahm had a disastrous round, shooting 6 over par. Bryson DeChambeau is sitting at 4 over. They're going to have to fight aggressively tomorrow just to make the cut.
And spare a thought for Robert McIntyre. He shot a 9 on the par 5 15th hole. A 9. He put 2 balls in the water and was visibly fuming as he walked off the green.
Those pilots might be looking for aliens, but tonight all eyes are on the Pacific Ocean for a distinctly human achievement because the Artemis II mission is finally coming home.
This is a monumental evening for aerospace logistics. NASA's Artemis II mission, which is the first crewed flight to the vicinity of the moon in over 50 years, is scheduled to splash down off the coast of San Diego tonight at exactly 7 minutes past 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
The crew NASA astronauts Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen just spent their 9th day in space, packing up the cabin and prepping for the most violent part of the journey.
The physics of atmospheric reentry are terrifying.
Yeah.
The Orion capsule is going to hit the Earth's upper atmosphere, traveling at 24,606 miles per hour.
Explain how the capsule survives that. It's essentially a meteor at that point.
It is. Slamming into the atmosphere at Mach 32 generates an immense wall of friction. The air in front of the capsule compresses so violently that it turns into superheated plasma. The capsule's ablative heat shield is going to be subjected to temperatures exceeding 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 2,800 degrees Celsius.
The heat shield is designed to slowly burn away, carrying the heat off the ship. But this is the ultimate stress test, especially since NASA engineers noted some minor, unexpected charring on the heat shield during the uncrewed Artemis I mission a few years ago. The U.S. Navy and NASA recovery teams are already stationed on the amphibious transport dock USS John P. Murtha, just waiting for the plasma blackout phase to end and the parachutes to deploy.
The visual poetry of this mission has been incredible. They broke the all-time human distance record from Earth, traveling 252,760 miles away, and right before they started prepping for re-entry, the crew reported witnessing an Earth set, watching the entire blue marble of our planet sink into the dark void behind the barren horizon of the moon.
They captured high-resolution imagery of it, and it's going to be one of the defining, iconic photographs of our generation.
It is the pinnacle of extreme engineering. And what's fascinating is how you contrast that deep space survival tech with what is happening in the mundane consumer tech world today. Samsung just revealed their 2026 hardware lineup in Seoul, and it shows a massive shift toward grounding high-tech AI innovation into daily sustainability.
Exactly. We always think of AI as chatbots or orbital servers, but Samsung announced that over 30 models of their new consumer TVs and soundbars have received official carbon reduction certifications.
How are they using AI to lower carbon footprints on a television?
They've built an AI energy mode directly into the processor. It uses built-in ambient sensors to constantly analyze the lighting in your living room, and the AI automatically adjusts the screen brightness pixel by pixel to drastically cut power consumption, and it does it so smoothly the viewer doesn't even notice the dimming.
That's smart. But the real game changer is in the laundry room. They introduced a bespoke AI laundry combo machine that includes a specific, less microfiber cycle.
Which solves a huge ecological problem. When you wash synthetic clothing like fleece or polyester, millions of microscopic plastic threads, microfibers, wash down the drain, bypass municipal water treatment plants, and end up in the ocean, poisoning the food chain.
This new AI cycle physically adjusts the motor speed, the water turbulence, and utilizes a specialized filtration system to reduce the release of those microfibers into the water supply by 39%.
39% is a staggering reduction when you apply it at a global scale across millions of households. And they are expanding their definition of sustainability to include human accessibility, too. The new screens feature a Relumino mode. It uses edge computing AI to dynamically outline objects on the screen and boost contrast specifically to help viewers with low vision see the picture clearly.
It's technology actually solving daily human problems, like microplastic pollution and accessibility, while the astronauts are solving deep space survival. It's a nice thought to end on, considering the absolute dumpster fire of news we started with today.
It really is. And it leaves us with a lingering, provocative question to mull over tonight. With influencers losing their grip on brand money and politicians hiding from tabloid cameras and freight elevators, are we entering an era where traditional fame and political immunity are entirely collapsing under the weight of real-time public accountability? Something to think about.
All right, if we made your drive, your workout, or your downtime even a little bit better today, do us a massive favor. Whether you are watching on YouTube, streaming on Spotify, listening on Apple Podcasts, or literally anywhere else, hit that follow or subscribe button right now. We drop episodes like this every single day, bringing you the world's news in the most interesting way possible. Lock in, because you do not want to miss the crazy stories we have queued up for tomorrow. See you then.